I wanted to shoot a short video capturing my thoughts and reactions on ESPN's documentary Last Dance, chronicling the final season of Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76 Sports. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. Well, as you can see, I am not draped in my Michigan football gear. This time we're going to switch up gears and set Michigan and Ohio State to the side for now, and we're going to discuss some round ball. So this video is going to capture my thoughts on parts 1 and 2 of ESPN's documentary Last Dance, which covered or chronicled the final year of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Phil Jackson and the Chicago Bulls as they looked to compete, or should I say complete, their final three-peat. And that's what the documentary was designed for. It was designed to cover just that specific year. And I can't think of another NBA franchise who historically had completed two different three-peats. I know that back in the 1960s, the Celtics, I think they won 9 or 11 straight NBA titles. But I think the Bulls hold the distinction for being able to do two three-peats. And it's a powerful documentary because there are at least two generations who never saw Michael play. You know, there are generations who grew up seeing Allen Iverson do his thing, Shaq, Kobe, Steph Curry, LeBron, and now KD, but you have at least two generations who never saw Michael play. And so you see these arguments over who's the GOAT, the greatest of all time, and much of these younger folks will argue tooth and nail that it's LeBron. But make no mistake here, I'm a Gen Xer, and this is a Michael Jordan house. And I will forever stick to my point that Michael is the GOAT. I know some would say that it's Kareem. Some would say that it's Magic. And, you know, I think the argument can definitely be made that Magic is the GOAT. If you watch his footage of him out on the fast break throwing those passes, that argument can be made. But I will always go back to Michael Jordan being the GOAT. Most of my content here has involved Michigan football. I am an alumnus of the Maize and Blue, and actually that content performs very, very well. But honestly, I actually never played football. I tried it 1 year as a junior in high school, and because I never played Little League and put on a helmet and put on shoulder pads and everything, I'd never done it. But I did. There was a point in my life when I was very, very in love with basketball, and I did play some basketball in high school. And part of my falling in love with basketball in middle school, actually most of it was Michael Jordan. I started watching the NBA in the late 1980s, so I missed the first part of his career. You know, when he came out of North Carolina, and even when he played at North Carolina, and when he broke his foot, I missed that part, and I came in just as the Bulls were trying to ascend. And, you know, I started watching during those years when they got beaten back over and over and over again by the bad boy Detroit Pistons. And before I jump into what stood out to me from the documentary, I just want to say that NBA was completely different than the NBA that we have now. And I think that's something that uh, the millennials and the Gen Zers and the Gen Yers, that's something that they almost have no appreciation for, because those games in the 80s and the early 90s were literally like war. You know, when Michael would go to the basket against the Pistons, when the Lakers would try to go to the basket and the Celtics would try to go to the basket against each other, you know, there were hard fouls. Bodies would go flying, bodies would go falling to the ground, and there was all kinds of contact and intimidation and all kinds of things that you don't see in today's game. And so some of us have actually talked and wondered how players like LeBron and KD and Steph Curry would do in that 1980s, 1990s NBA. And the players really, it was a much different game than the game today. So the documentary. So before I get to that, you know, there was literally a craze created by Michael, you know, and I can't describe just the aura of seeing those red, black, and white jerseys go up and down the court and seeing Michael just fly through the air, doing those dunks and those moves. And the same thing with Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen said in the documentary last night that Dr. J was one of his idols, and the way Scottie, he'd come down the lane fully extended and just dunk on Barkley and dunk on everybody and dunk on Patrick Ewing, and they would just make all of these athletic plays. And you know, to me, there's hasn't been anything like it since then. And for me, I don't think there ever will be anything like it. That was my youth, and that was a golden time and an innocent time for me. And that's the NBA that I grew up on, and there'll probably never be anything else like it for me. So the documentary, what stood out to me was they focused on Michael's drive, and it's been characterized and chronicled that Michael was uber competitive and almost in a very, very unhealthy way. And it turns out that we know that his getting cut from his high school team very much affected him in his drive. But last night they talked about how it was his older brother Larry who fueled his competitive drive, and also for a time his father's seeming acceptance of his older brother Larry versus him. So oftentimes what I took from that was oftentimes who we become and our competitive nature and our drive to succeed often comes from our relatives and people in our family and those early experiences that hurt us, but ultimately galvanize us into the people that we go on to become. As I was watching the documentary, I was texting with my buddies, and I said, Michael was lucky when he broke his foot that he was able to come back from it. And I texted that players like Penny Hardaway and Grant Hill weren't so lucky. I often think of injuries as the great unknown or the great equalizer in sports. And so many seasons and so many titles have been won, and so many destinies have been decided by injuries and players either coming out of series or not being able to compete in series or whole seasons, and what those injuries have done to hurt teams' chances of winning or help other teams' chances of winning. And injuries impact sports all the time, and we almost never remember the teams that the players that got hurt. We almost always remember the final scoreboard and the teams that won. So MJ and the entire Bulls organization was very fortunate that he was able to come back from that and pretty much remain injury-free for the rest of his career. I was pretty oblivious to Scottie Pippen's plight. Scottie Pippen was very much MJ's Robin to MJ's Batman. And watching the two, they were the only two to participate in both three-peats, and watching the two play together again was like a thing of beauty. It was like watching a ballet or a symphony orchestra. The way they were able to play defense and shoot the ball and drive the ball and share the ball, and just their overall levels of versatility. It was just beautiful to watch both of them. But I had no idea that Scotty, at one point, he was the sixth highest player on his own roster. That, when you think about that, that's insane. And it seems that the Bulls management was unwilling to restructure his contract and allow him to get adequately compensated for his skill sets and what he contributed to those championships. And I didn't know that there was that level of bitterness and resentment and animosity from Scotty because of that. I think that as I got further into my education and into college and then into graduate school, I honestly did stop paying as much attention to the smaller inner workings of the Bulls and what they were doing and what was happening there. So I kind of missed that, so I didn't really know all of that was going on. But it's very, very unfortunate that Scotty was treated that way. He did sign a contract that Jerry Reinsdorf allegedly advised him not to sign, but he had family obligations and family pressures and things that he wanted to do for his family that compelled him to do that. But I never knew that all that was going on. And then finally, I'll just comment briefly about the tensions between Jerry Krause, who was the GM, who arguably helped put those rosters together, and there was a lot of animosity between him and Phil Jackson and Michael and Scotty. So I had no idea that all of that was going on in the latter stages of the Bulls dynasty, and they actually played little snippets of some of the remarks that Michael made towards Jerry Krause. And allegedly, Scottie Pippen made a lot of remarks, a lot of disparaging and disrespectful remarks towards Jerry Krause. And it just, from what they depicted in the documentary, it was just a complete shit show behind the scenes that they were somehow able to keep together to win that last title, which is actually very remarkable, because when there's a certain level of dysfunction in a team and a franchise, it usually spills down onto the actual play on the court and on the field. So I'm going to stop this here. Those were just my reactions and thoughts after watching parts 1 and 2. I'm sure I will have more thoughts on the other parts as ESPN rolls those out. It was a much different NBA than the one we see today. And again, there are whole generations now that have never seen Michael play or who have never seen those Bulls teams play. So let me know what you think in the comments section below. Please like this video, please share it, and please subscribe to my channel. And always remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.